So we'll get started, and hopefully our last person will join us before we're done. First of all, thanks very much to everyone for being here. I would like to hope that the turnout of press today is a reflection that you recognize how important this issue is as much as we all do. And thank you also to everyone who's standing behind me today who's come to be part of this and put their names and their weight behind what an important effort this is. My name's Jennifer Horn. I am the founder of We the People, and we are all here today because we believe that our First in the Nation primary is under assault. And we believe it is the responsibility of every Granite Stater to step up now and take action to protect our primary. The First in the Nation primary is bigger than any one candidate. It is bigger than any one campaign or any one political party. New Hampshire has hosted the First in the Nation primary since 1920, and there's a very good reason why this has been maintained for as long as it has, because it works. The long-honored vetting process of the early states has served the best interest of the voters of our nation. There is no better way to get to know those individuals who would seek to become the next president of the United States. Without it, lesser funded or lesser known candidates would have no way to get themselves noticed or be heard. The early state process, led by New Hampshire's First in the Nation primary, best serves democracy, best serves the citizens of our country, and best serves the candidates themselves. Where would a Herman Cain, a Rick Santorum, or even a John Huntsman be without New Hampshire? It was in New Hampshire that Ronald Reagan burst forth, reminding Mr. Green that he paid for his microphone. It was New Hampshire that first gave Representative Ron Paul a platform for what has now become a revolution. It was the people of New Hampshire who propelled and almost broke John McCain into the nomination in 2008. And I don't mind reminding you that it's New Hampshire that Mitt Romney, Rick Perry, and Ron Paul are relying on to propel them forward in the 2012 primary process. This is not a vanity issue for New Hampshire. This is a democracy issue for America. Without New Hampshire's First in the Nation, we fall into a national primary where only those candidates with the upfront funds to compete on a national media will ever be able to run. As stewards of the First in the Nation primary, we have great respect for the role that each of the early primary states play in this process. And we are simply asking Nevada to stand with us to protect that process by moving their caucus just 72 hours. We're very pleased this morning to be able to share with you the news that the federal delegation has joined our efforts, and they released a statement this morning that I hope all of you will get your hands on. If Nevada is unwilling to honor our place in the process, then I would ask all of our presidential candidates to stand with New Hampshire and demonstrate their commitment to the process and their respect for the rules by boycotting the Nevada caucus. By refusing to campaign or participate, the candidates will show that Nevada cannot change the rules and bully everyone else in line. Finally, and most importantly, we are calling on all New Hampshire citizens to take action to protect our primary. We are asking every voter in the state to do two things. First, to go to boycottnevada.org and sign the petition today. And second, call your favorite candidate, whomever he or she may be, and ask that candidate to stand with us to protect our First in the Nation primary. I'm very pleased to have so many good people with us today joining this effort. I'd like to introduce some of them. They're each going to make statements, and we'll take your questions at the end of everyone's statements. First, I'd like to introduce Senate President Peter Bragdon.
Thank you, Jennifer. We are here this morning to call upon all Republicans to help preserve and protect the First in the Nation New Hampshire primary. There are many reasons why New Hampshire, since 1920, has been honored with the First in the Nation primary. Among those reasons are the highest voter turnout in the country and the up-close scrutiny we give to all candidates of all ideologies. New Hampshire citizens take their role very seriously. It would be a great disservice to the citizens of New Hampshire and the entire presidential selection process to have New Hampshire be forced to have its First in the Nation primary in December due to the encroachment of the Nevada caucuses. Therefore, we urge all presidential candidates to boycott the Nevada caucuses unless Nevada moves its caucuses back and we urge all citizens to sign the petition at www.boycottnevada.org. Thank you.
Greg Moore is here on behalf of Speaker of the House Bill O'Brien.
Thank you. The Speaker is unable to attend today. He had a pre-existing commitment down in Salem, but he wanted to release the following statement. The first in the nation primary is deeply rooted in New Hampshire tradition that is as fundamental to Granite State as maple syrup, covered bridges, and town hall meetings. We're not simply first because we want to be first, but because New Hampshire has proven time and again that we are great at vetting candidates in retail settings that can get more than canned answers out of those who want to be president. Any attack on the first in the nation primary is an assault on making sure that candidates give real, honest answers and are not simply judged on speeches read from teleprompters before pre-made crowds of supporters. Our nation deserves better. While we stand shoulder to shoulder with Secretary Bill Gardner in his defense of our state law and our traditions, we also call on candidates to show their commitment to the New Hampshire primary by refusing to campaign in any state that would devalue our status by attempting to move their date within our primary window. We hope that every candidate will take the pledge to stand with New Hampshire and the special value of the process we have run so effectively here. Finally, I want to take a moment to thank Governor John Huntsman, Speaker Newt Gingrich, Representative Michelle Bachmann, Senator Rick Santorum, and Mr. Hemingway for their unwavering support for the First in the Nation primary. New Hampshire voters truly appreciate their commitment to our tradition and are looking to other candidates to make a similar pledge to protect the value of our primary. Thank you.
GOP Chairman Wayne McDonald also stands with us today. He had a commitment he could not change. A representative from the Republican Party, Jacob Avery, is here, and he has written a written statement from the chairman that he'll be happy to give you a copy of if you just find him. Also joining us today is former Republican Party Chair Jayne Millerick.
Hi everyone. Jennifer's made some great points, and I know there'll be folks after me making some wonderful points about our primary. Two things I'd like to say. One is we understand in New Hampshire that the primary that we host is a privilege, and it's a privilege that we honor and that we work for every 4 years. We don't just say we host the primary and push it upon the nation. We take it very seriously here, and we understand that we have a job to do, that learning about the candidates, challenging them on issues, and making them accountable for their statements are things that need to be done, and that New Hampshire has proven to do an excellent job at every 4 years. The other very important point about our primary that I wanted to make is that we as Republicans grow, learn, and take advantage of this process by growing our party. We know that many of the people who call themselves our members and that are passionate about our candidates here in New Hampshire have come to our party as a result of the First in the Nation primary. People get excited about the presidential candidates. They understand that they can have an impact because they are a citizen of New Hampshire. They can meet the candidate personally and be very much a part of choosing the next Republican nominee for president and eventually choosing that president. So the Republican Party here in New Hampshire is very much benefited from the primary, and we continue to grow our membership and even our candidates through the process of the primary, and it's a very important piece. So I wanted to make that a point as well. Thank you.
Our next speaker is a gubernatorial candidate, Ovide Lamontagne.
Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you, We the People, for organizing this rally this morning. I'm here and joining fellow Republican leaders in our state to talk about our solidarity and call upon all New Hampshire citizens to stand in solidarity with the Secretary of State, Bill Gardner. I've had the honor and the privilege and the pleasure to work with Bill Gardner for over 25 years in my professional capacity as a candidate for office. We are very blessed in New Hampshire to have a public servant like Bill Gardner with the kind of institutional knowledge that he brings to this issue. And I'm here to stand with him and by him every step of the way on behalf of not just Republicans, but all New Hampshire citizens who should join us in solidarity to call upon the state of Nevada, to reschedule its primary, its caucus. Let's make sure we're clear. It's a caucus, push it back 72 hours to give us the full week. The reason for that, and Secretary of State Gardner is quite compelling about it, that week is there to allow the results of the New Hampshire primary, the first in the nation primary, to be processed by the rest of the nation, and particularly the voters in the next similar caucus or primary. And that is what the Secretary of State is duty-bound under the law to advance, and I stand with him. He has been through this many times before. I put my trust in Bill, who's not a Republican, by the way. A lot of New Hampshire people don't realize this. He's a Democrat. He's taken on an issue not for the Republican Party, but for the state of New Hampshire and the country. And we ought to stand with him and call upon the candidates in the Republican primary for president to join with us and Bill Gardner to get the job done. Now, I'm not a betting man, but if I were, I'd put my money with Bill Gardner that this problem is going to be solved soon with our help so that we can get back to the business of talking about the issues facing this nation instead of the procedure that has already been agreed upon for the process of selecting the nominees for both parties and engage in the presidential caucus, primary, and contest that the citizens of New Hampshire and the nation deserve and require. So with that, I want to thank you for being here, and I want to thank the other Republicans who joined this morning in this solidarity for the cause and for Secretary of State Bill Gardner. Thank you.
We're very pleased to have, as part of our coalition here, Cornerstone Action and the Executive Director, Kevin Smith.
Look, I think this is a watershed moment in our nation's democracy with regard to how we're going to nominate future presidents of the United States. And I would echo what Secretary Gardner has said about complimenting the sentiments of those candidates that have already chosen to boycott or ignore the Nevada caucus. And I would continue to call on those candidates which have not made their feelings known yet, or that continue to campaign in Nevada, that they won't do so until Nevada moves its caucus back. And let's be clear, there's still a window of opportunity here for Nevada to do the right thing, and that is to move its caucus back 72 hours, as other speakers have already stated. And in that way, the nomination process can begin in January, when most people would like it to begin, and not in December. And so I hope Nevada heeds those calls and does the right thing here and preserves the tradition of our nominating process in our country. Thank you.
Andrew Hemingway, Chairman of the Republican Liberty Caucus, is here today as well.
Good morning. I am Chairman of the Republican Liberty Caucus of New Hampshire, and I'm also an active member and leader of the New Hampshire Tea Party. And today I want to speak to you briefly from the perspective of the New Hampshire Tea Party. We are nonpartisan. This is not a Republican or a Democrat issue. The reason that I'm here today is obviously to stand with these other concerned activists and citizens of New Hampshire. But beyond that is to express my disgust for the political gamesmanship that's currently happening within the Republican Party, and specifically among the candidates who are unwilling to come and to stand with New Hampshire on this issue. Governor Mitt Romney should be ashamed of himself and should come forward and stand with New Hampshire. He owns property in New Hampshire, and this is obviously political gamesmanship on his behalf to move Nevada closer, to pressure New Hampshire. He has put all of his weight and all of his campaign effort into New Hampshire. He's basically stated that winning New Hampshire is his primary goal, and without it, he's in trouble. And so moving Nevada closer, a state that he's expected to win or expected to do well in, obviously benefits him. His campaign has yet come out to say, look, we weren't involved in the timing of this. We weren't involved in moving these debate, moving this caucus forward. We weren't involved in, pressuring these people. And they won't, because they obviously are. This is a move by Governor Romney to better his chances. And with that political gamesmanship, he puts at stake over 100 years of history here in New Hampshire. It's a travesty, and I can't imagine if he's willing to go to this level in the primaries and as a candidate, What levels would he be willing to go to as President of the United States? I shudder to think. The New Hampshire Tea Party stands with Bill Gardner, and we stand with the people of New Hampshire. And we express with great urgency for you to go to the website that's been set up, boycottnevada.org. We hope that you'll go there and sign that today. And we would ask Nevada, obviously, to move their dates back. We would ask Governor Mitt Romney, Governor Rick Perry, and Congressman Ron Paul to get on board and to stand with the people of New Hampshire. Thank you.
And our last speaker is going on behalf of DJ Bettencourt. We have Jim Rivers.
Thank you, Jennifer. Good morning. I am Jim Rivers. I'm a member of the House Majority Office staff, and I'm here today speaking on behalf of DJ Bettencourt, our Majority Leader, who along with the Speaker is down attending an event in the honor of their good friend and colleague, Representative Mary Griffin, who probably is one of the few people in these two buildings who actually voted in the first in the nation primary. But supporting the primary is so important to DJ Bettencourt that he wanted to make sure that someone appeared and gave some remarks on his behalf. I appreciate all of the candidates who have chosen to stand with New Hampshire in support of the first in the nation primary. It has become a very important part of our heritage. For more than a half century, New Hampshire citizens have played an important role in the process of electing our president. When citizens across this great country think of New Hampshire, they often think of things like the old man of the mountain and the first in the nation primary. Unfortunately, we lost one of them to Mother Nature a few years ago, but we intend to fight to hold on to the other one. Candidates appreciate the fact that tarmac politics don't exist in New Hampshire anymore. Our citizens expect presidential candidates to look them square in the eye and be ready to answer the tough questions. I'm sure you all have heard of the story of the old New Hampshire farmer who, when asked if he was going to support a certain candidate for president, he paused and said, "I don't know, I haven't met him yet." We've earned that right to be first in the nation. We thank those candidates, both past and present, who have stood with us, and we look forward to maintaining our first in the nation status for many years to come.
Again, we want to thank our federal delegation, Senator Ayotte, Congressman Bass, Congressman Ginta, for joining our efforts today. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, we are all passionately committed to preserving our first in the nation primary. We are grateful for and supportive of the efforts of Secretary of State Bill Gardner, and we stand here today to make it very clear to our friends in Nevada and Florida and any other state that would challenge our position that we will not go quietly into the night. New Hampshire's first in the nation primary is here to stay, and it is entirely non-negotiable. Thank you for coming this morning. We'll be happy to take any questions.
Yeah, 4 out of the 5 people that have already expressed support for this boycott were on stage in Nevada last night. What does that tell you about, well, first of all, is that okay with you? And second, what does that tell you about how hard it'll be to really enforce this boycott on a national campaign?
We are confident that the remaining candidates who are running for president are going to do the right thing and stand with us in our efforts to protect our primary. I think what we saw last night were candidates who are very serious about the office that they're running for, who have important messages to get out, and took advantage of a national platform to speak to as many voters across the nation as possible. However, we are grateful for those people on stage last night who are standing with us, who have already said they will not participate in that caucus, and we call on the remaining candidates to do the same.
Jennifer, given your various positions, you all have influential voices, so it's fair to ask, could you envision yourself supporting or voting for a candidate who doesn't take part in this boycott?
I don't mind telling you that I am one of the 90% who's genuinely undecided right now as a voter, but there's no question that whether or not a candidate is publicly respecting, honoring, and protecting the first in the nation primary could absolutely influence who I decide to vote for.
Taking it a step further, will those of you whose endorsements are highly valuable withhold from endorsing a candidate who does not take part?
Can I say that the answer is yes. Josh first. I think that I'm not going to vote for anybody who doesn't stand up for this thing, who doesn't stand for New Hampshire and stand for the First Nation primary. And I think just like taking money from bureaucrats, I think you have to take votes away from candidates. I think that's the only message that they listen to. Take dollars and, votes away from the candidates for them to listen. So yeah, I think we all should be willing to stand up and say, I'm not voting for a candidate that doesn't respect the First Nation primary, because as Jen said, it's not an issue of this is a New Hampshire, ego trip. This is a matter of democracy. Several people have said that today. So if it's truly that serious, then yeah, I will not vote for that person, and I would encourage all New Hampshire citizens to not do that, and give endorsements, help in any way, absolutely.
Kevin, Ovide, Senator, same question for you.
Josh, I would echo what Jennifer said in that.
Can you come up to the mic?
Sure. I would echo what Jennifer said in that I'm genuinely undecided as well as to whom I will vote for in this primary. But certainly this will be a large factor in considering who to vote for as to how, because it is bigger than the New Hampshire primary. As I said, it's a watershed moment for our democracy and our nation. And I think that's going to be very important as we all consider and weigh in on what factors we'll decide as to who we're going to vote for. So I think it's a very important factor that will weigh in on that.
Anybody else?
Yeah, Jim.
Good, good.
As one who has not endorsed a candidate for president, I will take this issue very seriously. I don't necessarily believe in litmus tests, but I can tell you the weight of this particular decision as to whether or not to support the New Hampshire primary will be heavy.
I guess we're all trying to be very clear that there are consequences to not helping us protect and preserve the First in the Nation primary.
Well, Jennifer, speaking of consequences.
Can we get Ovide to answer, since he has, you have had a house party for Rick Perry, and I think you were going to come up to the mic. Can you clarify?
Thanks for the invitation. Well, first of all, let me be clear. Anyone who does not support a boycott of Nevada is not going to come to the house for a reception. We've had, that was supposed to be a little funny. My daughters always warn me against that. Don't try to be funny, Dad. I think the issue, though, is more than simply a New Hampshire issue. It's an issue of due process, the way that we go about selecting the president. And a candidate who sort of is complicit with Nevada and short-circuits the benefit of the New Hampshire primary, not because we're New Hampshire, because of what it says to the rest of the country, poses a problem, as far as I'm concerned, to that process. So it is a factor that you take into consideration. I don't subscribe to the view, by the way, that endorsements mean a lot, particularly in New Hampshire. They don't. Maybe an institutional endorsement, but an individual endorsement doesn't. People in New Hampshire make up their mind the old-fashioned way. They meet the candidates, they read up about them, they talk to their friends and neighbors. That's how they make the decision. But it's going to be a factor, I think, for almost everyone in New Hampshire as to where the candidates are on this issue. Let's not jump the gun, though. There is some time for the Secretary of State to work his magic, and I put my faith in the Secretary of State. Thank you.
Anyone else you want to hear from on that before we move on? Kevin?
Even if he doesn't fit, even if he doesn't work his magic, and the primary is held in December, New Hampshire's tradition is expected, do you really think voters out there are going to make folks like Mitt Romney and Rick Perry pay the consequences of their actions?
I think that in New Hampshire they will. Yes, I do think that it will carry consequences in New Hampshire. And Kevin, remember, we're not saying we need to be, we want to protect First in the Nation for the sake of being first. We're not first just for the fun of being first. We're first because it carries significance. We are first because we do it right, because we treat it as sacred, because people in New Hampshire are raised in the responsibility of the First in the Nation primary. We are, nearly a century into that responsibility. And it's something that not only don't we take lightly, but it's not easy to do. It's not an easy job, and we take it seriously. So yeah, I guess I do believe that the people of New Hampshire will consider this very strongly, and I think that it will have consequences could have consequences on the outcome of the primary vote.
Kev, I would just add to that too that I think John Huntsman got it right last night, and that's not an endorsement, by the way, of Governor Huntsman. But I think he got it right in staying back and not participating in that debate last night, and instead holding a town hall meeting right here in New Hampshire. And the people in that room, I think, probably thought he got it right. And the people reading the papers today and watching TV last night, I think are going to think the same thing. And if you look at the history of the primary winners in this state, people reward those who work hard in New Hampshire and who recognize that New Hampshire plays a very important role in the nominating process.
One other development we've seen is Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid has said he agrees with the January 14th caucus date. It appears New Hampshire, Nevada Democrats are moving towards a January 14th caucus. What should New Hampshire Democrats do to protect this tradition?
I would expect that New Hampshire Democrats will stand with us and protect the first in the nation primary. As several of us have said, and as I said earlier, this is bigger than any one candidate. It is bigger than any one campaign. It is bigger than Harry Reid. This is about protecting the democratic process, protecting the, as I said earlier, the process that serves the citizens, not of New Hampshire, but the citizens of our nation. I would expect that everyone in New Hampshire's Democratic Party, from leadership right down, would join us in this effort.
One thing I just wanted to be clear on in making these statements, are you being supportive of a December primary if Nevada doesn't move its state back, a December 6th, December 13th primary? Is that something people up here would support?
I'll answer that, but anybody else can too.
Well, I think the very obvious answer should be we support the Secretary of State's decision. He's been vested with the authority to set the dates that respects the process. It'll be unfortunate indeed if that happens. But if that's the outcome of this, we'll stand behind the Secretary of State. Right now, we are calling on all New Hampshire citizens to stand behind him and to use whatever pressure we can bring to bear on the candidates, the campaigns, and the state of Nevada to change its position, to push back 72 hours. That's what we're talking about.
I would reiterate what Ovide said, that we will stand with the Secretary of State, Bill Gardner, whatever decision he makes. However, I do not, and I think a December primary is a mistake. I think it's the wrong way to go. I want to see everyone, I want to see this coalition that has grown so much just in the last 24 hours continue to grow so that Nevada can stand with us, shoulder to shoulder. We recognize that the role that they play in this primary process is valuable and important, and we don't want to take that away from them. We just want them to move it 72 hours out so that we have the same respect in this process that they are seeking for their state. Anything else? I think that's it. I'm sure some of these folks will be happy to stay for just